The man next door was dead, but somehow he never left. So I heard this story from a friend about this creepy apartment situation that happened to her sister and herself in Chicago. They moved into this old building, like really run down, the kind where the walls have cracks that look like scars and the heating pipes rattle all night. They weren't exactly rolling in money, so they took it anyway. Next door to them was this guy, Mr. Marin, who lived alone. They never really saw him, but they always heard him at night, like dragging his feet slowly, pacing back and forth, and sometimes just breathing against the wall. The weird thing was, they could hear him talking, but no one ever answered. Then things got worse. They started noticing this awful smell in the hallway between their doors, like rotten meat mixed with something moldy and sickly sweet. They called maintenance, but no one ever came. After a while, the noises stopped completely. You'd think that'd be a relief, but it wasn't. It was like the silence was waiting. Then one night, at exactly 3:41 a.m., there were these 3 slow knocks on their door. They looked through the peephole, no one there, but they could hear breathing, wet, raspy, close by. They couldn't sleep for days. Eventually, the building manager and cops showed up. Turns out the guy next door hadn't paid rent in months. When they finally opened his door, the smell hit them so hard someone actually vomited. Mr. Marin had been dead for at least 2 months, slumped in his bathroom. But here's the creepy part. They were hearing him every night, moving around, talking. The cops chalked it up to weird noises from an empty apartment. But then they found something else. A photo of Mr. Marin standing outside their door, smiling. And in the background of the photo, you can see my friend's sister, sleeping on her couch. They don't know how he took the picture. No one will explain. My friend said they moved out that night. But here's the thing. Weeks later, she woke up and found a photo on her phone. It was her sleeping, and behind her, in the shadows, there was a dark shape. Something not quite human. She tried deleting it, but it keeps coming back. The stranger who watched from across the street. This is a story a friend told me, something that still haunts her years later. She lived alone in a small house on a quiet street in Portland, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where nothing ever feels out of place, until he showed up. At first, it was just a man standing across the street, always the same spot, just staring at her house, not blinking, not moving, like a statue carved out of shadow. She thought maybe he was some homeless guy or a lost traveler, so she ignored him. But every night, no matter how late, no matter how cold or pouring rain, he'd be there, just standing, watching. One night, she was home alone. Her boyfriend was out of town, and she heard a soft tap, tap, tap on her window. Her blood ran cold. She slowly peeked through the curtains. The stranger's eyes were glowing faintly, unnatural, like embers burning under a veil of darkness. They weren't human eyes. She slammed the curtains shut and locked every door, but the tapping didn't stop. It moved around the house, like slow, methodical footsteps, circling her. She called her boyfriend, but the call kept cutting out, filled with static and strange whispering she couldn't understand. The next morning, she found something under the front door, a twisted, crumpled note. It wasn't written in any language she recognized, just jagged symbols, like a language forgotten by time. And in the center, a crude drawing of a face, its eyes hollow black pits that seemed to stare straight into her soul. She showed it to her boyfriend, and they called the police. But the cops found nothing, no footprints, no sign anyone had been near the house. Even the security cameras showed static, like the stranger erased himself from every frame. Then one night she woke up to the sound of breathing, deep, slow, heavy breathing, right outside her bedroom door. When she looked through the peephole, the stranger was there, but his face was twisted, malformed like something not quite human. His mouth hung open too wide, and from it came a low, guttural growl. She ran to the phone, but the line was dead. Then, the strangest, most terrifying thing happened. The lights in the house flickered, and for a moment, she saw dozens of shadowy figures standing behind the stranger, all staring at her with the same hollow eyes. When the lights came back on, the stranger was gone. The next morning on her porch, she found a photograph of her house. In the upstairs window was a figure, but it wasn't her boyfriend or any neighbor. It was the stranger, his face still twisted into that terrible, unhuman grin. She left that house the next day, and sometimes late at night she still gets texts, not words, just symbols. And sometimes Those symbols glow faintly on her phone screen, like the stranger's eyes. No one knows who he was or what he wanted, but my friend, she says she can still feel him watching, waiting. The silent neighbor. My friend once told me about this guy who moved into their apartment building one freezing winter night. He was a quiet man, always dressed in black, kept his blinds shut tight. No one ever saw him come or go, except for those late-night trips out, like he was sneaking around or trying not to be noticed. The kind of guy everyone senses but never really meets. At first, people thought he was just shy or maybe had his own demons, but then strange things started happening. One night, my friend was home alone when it began, a faint tapping sound coming through the wall that separated their unit from the neighbors. It was slow, deliberate, like someone was trying to send a message through Morse code. The taps echoed softly but distinctly, sending a chill down my friend's spine. Trying to be rational, my friend knocked back once. The tapping stopped immediately. An eerie silence filled the room. It felt like the whole apartment was holding its breath. Over the next few nights, the tapping would come and go, sometimes growing frantic, other times fading to almost nothing, like a desperate plea or a warning. Curious, my friend asked other neighbors, but no one had seen the man in weeks. Then the building manager confirmed it. The neighbor had vanished without a trace. The police were called. When they forced their way into the man's apartment, what they found was chilling. The entire place was untouched, except one bedroom wall, which had been hollowed out, carved into a tiny, cramped crawl space. Inside, scattered with empty cans and rotting scraps, were human bones. Some looked old, others fresh. The police uncovered a tattered journal hidden among the debris, its pages filled with frantic writing. The neighbor described hearing voices from the walls, whispers that haunted his dreams and waking hours, voices that urged him to hide, to dig deeper inside his own apartment, into the walls themselves. His last entry was terrifying. "It's inside me now, the thing in the walls. I don't know how much longer I can hold it back. If you find this, don't try to save me. Run." My friend moved out soon after, but the tapping didn't stop. It followed them, now softer, almost like scratching beneath the floorboards. Sometimes at night it sounds like faint breathing, a whisper, just beyond hearing. Months later, my friend received a plain envelope with no return address. Inside was a single note in shaky handwriting. "I never left the walls. I'm still here, and soon it will be your turn." Since then, my friend refuses to stay home alone and avoids that building altogether, because some neighbors aren't just silent, they're waiting, trapped in the shadows, in the walls, watching, and when the tapping starts again, it's already too late. The shovel and the silence. This happened about 6 years ago, and to this day, my friend still doesn't know what to make of it. He used to live in this tiny town called Clymer Ridge, one of those quiet Pennsylvania places tucked between thick woods and long-forgotten mining roads. You know the kind, where folks still leave their doors unlocked and wave to strangers out of habit, but beneath all that niceness, there's something else, something nobody talks about. Anyway, my friend had a neighbor across the street named Silas Grady, lived in this faded blue ranch-style house with peeling paint and wind chimes that never seemed to stop, even when there was no breeze. Silas was in his 50s, quiet, polite, the type who nodded from his porch but never came over for a beer. His wife, Mary Ann, was the opposite. Bright-eyed, talkative, real warm, and they had a son, Timmy, 14, good kid, always riding his bike up and down the street, always had his headphones in. Then one day, Timmy just vanished. No warning, no goodbye. My friend remembers Silas knocking on his door asking if he'd seen him, said Timmy didn't come home from school. His voice was calm, too calm, like he already knew the answer but had to go through the motions. The whole town searched. They combed the woods, passed out flyers, drained a nearby creek, but Timmy was just gone. No signs of a struggle, no footprints, no scent trail, not even a backpack. After a while, the search slowed. Then it stopped altogether. Grief has a strange way of hollowing people out. Mary Ann stopped coming outside. The bright flowers she used to plant every spring shriveled up in their beds. Their Christmas lights never came back. And Silas, he got different. Not loud or erratic, just off. He stopped making eye contact, started mumbling to himself in the driveway. My friend once saw him staring into the woods behind their houses for hours, like he was waiting for something to come walking out. Then came last summer. It was a sticky August night, the kind where the air feels heavy, like it's pressing down on your lungs. My friend had just finished dinner when Silas knocked on his door. It was just after dark, no pleasantries, no small talk. "Can I borrow your post-hole shovel?" he asked. My friend said sure, handed it over. Silas didn't smile, didn't say thanks, just turned and walked off into the darkness. But here's the thing. Something in Silas's voice, in the blank way he asked, stuck with my friend. So around midnight, curiosity got the better of him. He stepped out onto the porch for a smoke and saw Silas in his backyard, digging. No flashlight, no floodlights, just him and the shovel, hacking at the earth like he was trying to carve open the ground itself. My friend watched for 15 minutes. Silas never paused, just dug deeper and deeper into the dirt. That's when something strange happened. The wind stopped. The crickets stopped. Even the cicadas went silent, like nature itself was holding its breath. The only sound was the sickening scrape of the shovel biting into dirt. Eventually, my friend grabbed his own flashlight and, stupidly, his spare shovel, just in case. He made his way across the yard, heart pounding. When he got close, he called Silas's name. Silas didn't answer, but my friend saw what he was digging. It wasn't a post hole. It was a trench, nearly 6 feet long, deeper than a man should need for anything legal. The smell hit him then. Sweet rot, wet metal, and something else. Something wrong. Like decay that wasn't from this world. He shined his light into the pit and froze. There were bones, not whole skeletons, just fragments, pieces, teeth, and a hand, half decomposed, the fingers curled as if clawing toward the surface. That's when Silas turned around. His face was pale, his eyes sunken and black-ringed. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. His lips trembled, and he said barely above a whisper, "It wouldn't stay buried." My friend tried to ask what he meant, but Silas just pointed at him with a trembling, dirt-covered hand and said, "It's not him anymore. You hear it too, don't you? Scratching under the floorboards." My friend backed away, fast. By morning, the trench was gone, freshly packed and smoothed over like nothing had happened. His shovel was sitting neatly against his porch. Silas's truck was gone. He never came back. But here's where it gets worse. The next evening, a small cardboard box appeared on my friend's doorstep. No name, no return address. Inside was a single child's sneaker, muddy, torn, laces frayed, bright blue with orange trim, exactly like the ones Timmy used to wear. And there was something else in the box, a clump of hair, curled and matted, streaked with something dark. That night, my friend barely slept. At around 2 a.m., he heard something moving inside his walls. Not rats, something bigger, something dragging. The scratching started around 3. By morning, his spare shovel, the one he brought with him that night, was missing from the shed. But here's the twist. 2 weeks later, my friend saw something that broke him. He was driving out of town when he spotted a figure at the edge of the woods near Route 6, a boy in a tattered hoodie, thin, dirty, limping. It looked exactly like Timmy. But when the boy turned to look at him, his eyes were black, hollow, and there was something crawling beneath his skin, like worms shifting in mud. And standing behind him, deeper in the trees, Silas, smiling. "So here's what I'll leave you with. If your quiet neighbor ever asks to borrow your shovel after dark, say no, because some things don't stay buried, and some people come back wrong."